"You're fired." 2 words. That was the price of a single cigarette. My manager sat across from me. She had that look, the kind of look a predator gives a trapped animal. She thought she won. She thought she was purging the university of a filthy habit. But Karen didn't realize she just handed me the keys to her professional coffin. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just smiled and walked out. Because I knew something she didn't. I didn't just create their content. I owned the entire network. And by the time she realizes what I've done, the university's budget will be a smoking crater, and I'll be sipping a cocktail 5,000 miles away. This is not just a story about getting fired. This is a masterclass in professional execution. Let's set the stage. The year was 2010. Content creation wasn't a thing yet. Universities were desperate to look modern. They hired me as a one-man army. Salary? $2,200. Peanuts for the workload they expected. Day 2. Karen walks in. She hands me a sheet of paper. 85 videos, 52 weeks. Each video had to be 3 to 10 minutes long. I had to write. I had to shoot. I had to cast. I even had to compose the music because they were too cheap for a royalty-free license. And the equipment? Ancient. Computers that sounded like a jet engine taking off if I tried to edit in 720p 1080p was a dream. I told her it was impossible. She just gave me that fake, encouraging smile. "Just give it a try," she said. "Focus on quality. The numbers won't matter if the work is good." That was her first lie. I was working 60 hours a week, but I didn't know the clock was already ticking against me. For the first month, I was the golden child. I was hitting the numbers. The views were higher than they had ever seen. I was a ghost. I lived in the edit suite. I survived on caffeine and pure willpower. Then she found out. She saw me in the parking lot. One quick cigarette during my only 10-minute break. The air shifted. My coworker saw the look on Karen's face and did a literal facepalm. "She hates smokers," she whispered. "She will hunt you until you're gone." Suddenly, I wasn't the golden child anymore. I was a problem. Karen didn't just want a worker. She wanted a puppet. And the moment she realized I had a mind of my own and a cigarette habit, she decided to cut my strings. The month after she saw me smoking in the parking lot was a masterclass in gaslighting. She started with the smell audit. Every time I walked back from my legally mandated 10-minute break, she'd be there, sniffing the air like a drug dog. "It's unprofessional," she'd bark. "It lingers on the equipment. You're damaging university property with your lungs." I was doing 60 hours a week. I was using my own high-end camera and my own MacBook because the university's gear was older than the students. But in her head, I was the one damaging things. She was setting the stage for a workplace execution. Then came the time theft accusations. I was staying until 11 p.m. almost every night. I was producing, editing, and even doing the voiceovers myself. But if I walked into the office at 8:05, the email would be in my inbox before I even sat down. Subject: documentation of late arrival. She ignored the 4 hours of unpaid overtime I gave her every single day. She only saw the 5 minutes I was late in the morning. This is what narcissists do. They shrink your successes and magnify your smallest flaws until you start questioning your own reality. 5 months in, the ambush. I was called into the director's office. The director sat behind a heavy oak desk, looking at a stack of papers Karen had prepared. A paper trail of lies. "We're halfway through the year," the director said, her voice like ice. "You've finished 30 videos. The KPI was 85. Shh, you're failing. I felt the blood rush to my face. I'm a one-man team, I said. I'm doing the work of a full-scale agency. Look at the views. Our YouTube channel grew by 400% this quarter. Karen gave a theatrical sigh. Quality doesn't matter if you can't hit the numbers, honey, she said. The honey felt like a slap. We need a professional production house, the director continued. Someone who understands deadlines. Someone professional. That was it. 5 months of my life, my health, and my own equipment, tossed in the trash because I smoked a cigarette during a break. You're fired, Karen said, her eyes gleaming with victory. And don't worry about the transition. We'll just use your database to find a real team. That was the moment she handed me the detonator. Karen thought she was a genius for firing me. She thought she could just take my production house database and keep the machine running. But Karen didn't know the first thing about production. She thought a director and a videographer were the same thing. She didn't know that every entry in that database was there because of my personal networking. I logged into the shared drive for the final time. I had 30 minutes before they revoked my access. I didn't delete the files. That would be too obvious. Instead, I performed a digital lobotomy. I went through every single production house on that list. 50 entries. I changed one digit in every phone number. I swapped the .com in their emails to .net or .org. I changed the names of the contact persons to people who had retired years ago. To an outsider, the spreadsheet looked perfect, but it was a map to a graveyard. Except for one row. Leo, my best friend, a junior director at a mid-sized studio. He was good, but he was struggling to get big clients. I left his information in bold, clear, perfect detail. I called him from the parking lot. Leo, I said, a woman named Karen is going to call you. She's desperate, she's arrogant, and she's spending the university's money like it's monopoly cash. Charge her the professional rate. Double your fees, triple them. She won't even blink. And tell her you're the only ones who can meet her impossible deadline. Leo laughed. What's the catch? The catch is a 15% finder's fee for me, I said. And you have to give her exactly what she asks for. No questions asked. I wasn't just getting even. I was setting up a financial explosion that would be heard in the chancellor's office. 2 days later, Karen reached out to Leo. She was frantic. She had spent all morning calling the other houses on the list and getting nothing but wrong number signals and bounced emails. Leo played the role of the high-end executive perfectly. He talked about synergy, brand equity, and cinematic exposure. Karen was hooked. She didn't know a production house required a crew of 12. She didn't know about lighting rentals, permits, or insurance. When Leo handed her a contract for a high 6-figure payout to finish the remaining 55 videos, she signed it without showing it to the legal department. She was so desperate to prove to the director that she was moving fast that she forgot to read the fine print. She thought she was buying a solution. In reality, she was buying a one-way ticket to a career-ending audit. While Karen was busy bragging about her new elite team, I was booking a flight to Bali with the first installment of my finder's fee, 4 months later. The humidity in Bali felt a lot better than the toxic air in that university office. I was sitting there, watching the sunrise, when my phone started vibrating like a chainsaw. It was Sarah. She was the only person from the office I hadn't blocked. "Are you awake?" she texted. The chancellor just walked into the director's office with 3 security guards and a forensic accountant. It's a bloodbath. I leaned back and smiled. The dominoes I set up months ago were finally hitting the floor. Here is what Karen didn't understand about professional production houses. They don't just charge for the video, they charge for the ego. Leo was doing a fantastic job. He was giving them the high-end cinematic look they craved, but he was also billing them for every single detail. Makeup artists at $500 a day, grip trucks at $1,000 a day, music licensing fees that cost more than my annual rent. And because Karen wanted to prove she was a boss, she never questioned a single invoice. She thought she was playing with a bottomless pit of university money. She was wrong. The university's annual budget for digital outreach was exactly $150,000. That was supposed to last 2 years. Karen had burned through $1.5 million in 16 weeks. She had exceeded the budget by over 10 times. She thought the director had her back. But the director was a narcissist too. And as soon as the chancellor started asking questions about why the university's endowment was bleeding out, the director threw Karen under the bus so fast it would make your head spin. But Karen had already signed her own death warrant with her own pen. Sarah told me the screaming matches were legendary. The chancellor found the contracts. Every single one of them had Karen's signature. No legal review, no competitive bidding, because all the other vendors on my list were unreachable. She looked like a criminal, or worse, she looked incompetent. In the corporate world, they can forgive a lot of things, but they never forgive a 10 times budget overrun. Karen was escorted out of the building in front of everyone. No severance, no glowing recommendation, just a permanent black mark on her career and a possible lawsuit for gross negligence. The director didn't escape either. She was demoted to a clerical position in a different department. Basically, she was forced to work the same entry-level job I had, but with 10 times the shame. As Sarah was finishing her story, a notification popped up on my screen. Leo had just sent the final wire transfer. My 15% finder's fee. $225,000. That was a year of pay for getting fired from a job I hated. Actually, it was closer to 10 years of my old salary. I didn't have to work for the rest of the year. I didn't have to deal with narcissists. And I definitely didn't have to hide my smoking breaks. People always say, living well is the best revenge. They're wrong. Living well while watching your enemies burn their own house down? That's the best revenge. Karen wanted a professional house. I gave her exactly what she asked for, and it cost her everything. The next time someone tries to gaslight you at work, don't get loud. Get the database. So, have you ever had a boss who thought they were untouchable? Someone who mistook your kindness for weakness? Tell me your story in the comments. I'm looking for new ideas for my next professional consultation. See you in the next one.